Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Paul, Righteous Force, Neil, Brian's Logic, Refracted Curvature, Adam, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Matrix and Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon.
Yo, yo, yo. How about them triangles?
Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No, and Dave McKeegan told me that I can't.
Dave Triangles McKeegan?
The Dave Triangles McKeegan was discussed in the pre-show because big props to him. DJ One Deck entered himself into a discussion on the comments threads with, now dubbed, Dave Triangles McKeegan, who explicitly made it so clear to One Deck that you can't acquire the height of stars on a globe because you require a right-angled triangle and a flat baseline. So Dave Triangles McKeegan has managed to simultaneously both prove that you cannot acquire height measurements for stars off a globe and that Earth is not a globe because it's measured with triangles off a flat baseline. So well done, Dave McKeegan. I'll trim that pre-show out and label it Dave McKeegan's Roast Debunks Globe Earth Proves Flat, or something more catchy. But you'll get it trimmed out for every one of your globe-believing brethren to pour scorn on how you have affirmed our flat Earth elevation right-angle triangle argument by telling us just how much you need that triangle. Well done, your ignorance has betrayed you. Shout out to Jardo. Really appreciate the super chat. Says, just spoke to Dave McKeegan. Oh, it gets better. Now he's a confirmed flat earther. He wants to know when he can learn our secret handshake. That sounds like an ad hominem attack from a man who's just literally proved our point with comments that detail explicitly how triangles are used and can't be used off curved surfaces. Yeah, I kid you not. If you're a member, you've got to check out today's pre-show. I don't know when it'll come out. Next Monday, I believe. If you're a non-member on my second channel, subscribe today. Links are in the info box. So you don't have to be a member to watch the Uncut and After show. So go and subscribe to my second channel and you get it for free a few days later. Also, woohoo! This channel hit 25,000 subscribers. I'm elated. Now, normally when I hit a decent number or a milestone number, people immediately go and unsubscribe. Well, I don't care. We've hit the number. We'll hit it again. This show shows growth. And this is the growth that I'm so elated to share with you because it's a milestone number for me. 25,000 back in the days of YouTube, given that I've been doing it for about 15 years or however long I've been doing it, a long time, used to be a number that they would dangle in front of you for how many subs you should have to do certain things. For instance, for example, and for instance in one word. For instance, when YouTube live streaming was introduced to mobile phone users, the people who got the beta, the test platform, were the people with 25,000 plus subscribers. Live streaming itself was first offered to people with 25,000 or more subscribers. YouTube memberships initially were only offered to people with more than 25,000 YouTube subscribers. So while that isn't the case now, and any old Joe Blogs public, because they've rolled it out from beta to the public, can live stream off their phone, but it wasn't always the case. You had to have a certain number of subscribers to do these things. So for me, I've always wanted to have YouTube memberships, have a decent audience, which is what it's significant of, and reaching 25,000 subscribers is a big milestone for me. So I'm so pleased Thank you, everybody who shares these shows, because that's how the subscriber numbers go up as a result of you sharing the show. So I'm so grateful to everyone who shares these shows. It does mean a lot to me. And indeed, memberships, which is what you would have got before, we have now anyway, thanks to it rolling out to more than, people who've just got 25,000 subscribers. So Gourdzilla's just gifted a load of those memberships out. So also shout out to Gourdzilla37. Sorry, guys, on all the different panels for my lengthy shout out, but as you can probably tell from the tone in my voice, I'm extremely, extremely made up that we've reached this milestone.
Come on, then.
You know that now
Congratulations,
that very
Nathan. Before we
you made an announcement. Hold on, you made an announcement now. You know that now the trolls have waited for their ultimate opportunity, and then they'll subscribe like a couple of hundred, so that you'll be under that border again. Remember how that used to happen?
Yeah, I don't care.
That's harder for them to do now. But stuff then. Nathan, well done. Congratulations, mate. That is an achievement.
Yeah, I was moaning about it in the pre-show. I was like, because I gave Dave McKeegan, who's very green to this subject, let's be honest, more of a hard time than he potentially deserves for his Dunning-Kruger ignorance and confessions that we need a corrupt triangle, because he didn't put a link in my video. He made a response on YouTube, and frankly, again, I don't care that he's got a very limited number of subscribers on YouTube. He's not popular here. It doesn't matter. He didn't put a link. So he's responded and not shared the YouTube algorithmic love that we don't get. Well, what a scummy move. Well, you're going to pay for that, Dave, because you're now Dave Triangles McKeegan, proving Earth's flat and debunking the measurement to the height of the stars with triangles, because they can't take place on curved surfaces. What do you mean, curved baseline? Yeah, numpty, you've proven Earth's flat. Well done. Welcome to the club. Welcome to Flat Earth. Dave Triangles McKeegan has betrayed you, Globe Believers. You should attack him for the numpty dipshit that he is. Yeah, his ignorance has betrayed you all, because he's affirmed our elevation angle measurement argument in no uncertain terms. He even put it in writing. No Weasley way around it, Dave. So, Dave Triangles McKeegan, next time you respond, put a link, like I did to you. So we've covered elevation angle measurements with curved baselines. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
That'll be a no.
Why the long pause?
Well,
I was trying to think.
I can only give you what I gave you in the past.
One more time, Brian.
I can only give you what I gave you in the past, which is their story of how they got the distance to the sun from their globe. Now, I can give it to you again, but I don't know if you want to hear it.
I mean, I think it's appropriate, given that Dave McKeegan's literally just told us, check out the pre-show if you remember, about how you can't get these height measurements given that you need a triangle.
Well, they start off pre-assuming that the Earth is a globe of radius 3959 miles. Then they watch the transit of Venus across the sun. Then they pre-assumed that Venus was also a sphere of just about 3959 mile radius. And then they took the angular size of the sun and compared it with what they saw as the angular size of Venus within its transit, and decided from those two angular sizes the distance between Venus and the sun. And based off those angular sizes, they determined the distance between their globe, Earth, and Venus. They added two of them together, and there you go, 93 million miles. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't initially 93 million miles. They've changed it around a few times, but it's 93 million miles now. But that only changed because they had to change the size of the sun, and the distance to the sun. So when they have to change one, they have to change the other, and that means you have to change everything else around. But it's the same complete and utter rubbish that they're doing. Backwards logic is all you could call it.
Okay, so we have actually got a couple of different choices of videos that we can cover today. Now I've done a couple of housekeeping questions. We're not going to rehash Dave McKeegan. I'll, like I say, cut that out and put it into a separate video, which will go out to members, and then at some point, perhaps at the weekend, I'll release it to members. Just one sec. Can you talk among yourselves for a second, guys?
Blah, de blah, de
Okay.
blah.
No.
Brian, I did understand what you were saying before, but I was just saying, isn't it over once they start talking about triangles and flat baselines? I mean, the game is over.
Yeah, but at the time he didn't understand that you needed a horizontal baseline.
Does he even
He was
understand
arguing
now?
against that. Well, he supposedly does.
Not from the likes of what one deck just shared with us. This
Well,
much?
he's
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I
If
mean,
you
what can you do? Go on, John.
I was going to say, if you understand that you need Earth to be a flat baseline for dip correction or elevation angles, and you're still arguing for a globe, it's like akin to a chicken with its head cut off still running around.
Yeah, it's pointless, isn't it? Well, why would you do that? Why would you just state that as a fact and then carry on as if it's still a globe? It's crazy.
Yeah, it must be the
insane, isn't it?
autonomic nervous system. It's so fucking like ingrained.
No swearing.
It's the autonomic nervous system. Oh, sorry.
And stepped away for a
But yeah.
second. It's not like you, John. Very out of character.
I was just going to say, John, mind you. Oh,
John is
Like the
the least
first time
potty
I've
mouth.
ever
One of the
cussed on
least
air.
potty mouthed of all of us. That was a bit of a shock to just sit down to that. There we go. Right. And then I'm going to do a straw poll in the audience, but we'll ask your opinion because we've got 2 videos that we can potentially cover. So I'm just going to take a vote from the audience rather than... we got Simon Whistler, I think his name is, on the Today I Found Out channel. And he's covering who started the Flat Earth conspiracy theory, how many believe this, and what do they believe. Very catchy title. Or we've got I'm a flat Earth physicist and I'm a physicist and flat earther, which is a skit by Andrew Dotson. So I think we'll ascribe arbitrarily a number 1 to Andrew Dotson's video, which is I'm a physicist and a flat earther, which is a little sarcastic skit, which is actually one that I've picked. It's the first one I've actually watched today. Admittedly, it's not something I've got in the back of my, arsenal of videos to cover. I just literally picked it almost at random today when it came up on one of my feeds. But that's one I've actually watched, so I'm not green to that one. Or this one that I am completely green to that was shared with us by Paul, which is obviously a lot more mainstream. It's got a lot more, maybe 10 times the amount of subscribers. So yeah, we can do either or. Just let us, one for I've forgotten his name already, bloody hell. The physicist guy, Andrew, and 2 for Simon, which is Today I Found Out. So just let us know from the chat. I'll check in a moment and see who's there. Hey, Quantum Eraser.
You got more than 2 choices. What am I, chopped liver?
Sorry, there's only 2 videos to pick from.
What did I just say? You got more than 2.
There's millions of views and millions of videos published to YouTube daily. Well, I don't really understand.
I posted it at Ballbusters. What's the problem here?
So Johnny Come Lately arrives and tells us that a video he's posted in a feed that we're not necessarily looking at should be our priority. Is that what's going on here?
Number 1 I'm not Johnny Come Lately. Number 2, in a feed you're not supposed to be looking at, it's Ballbusters.
Paul, are you there? You're hearing it third party now. It was you 2 days ago. Now it's John doing it. Can you understand my frustration? You should be looking at another feed, says Quantum Eraser. Should I? Right, okay. Thank you for that. I'll go and look now.
Last night.
And Nathan, you didn't read my feed.
Yeah, I'll start with
Damn
you
it.
on that ordeal later, Arwin.
I didn't actually write anything, but it's just like, yeah, come on. Like Skype, there's a lot of messaging going around. It's not like he's going to read every single thing.
Well, Kiwi posted it last night, our time, London time, let's just say.
All right, okay.
Last night.
I mean, it's a mixed bag.
That's all right.
There's no preference from the chat.
right.
There's 1s and 2s, so there's no real preference.
It's 8-7 to 2 now.
That's all right.
8-7.
You can do it. Oh, bro.
9-7.
In favour of which?
In video number 2.
So we're going to be covering Today I Found Out with his catchy title, Who Started the Flat Earth Conspiracy Theory? How many believe this? And what do they believe? as
The
opposed
day
to.
Dave found out.
Also, we've got one from Quantum Eraser that we might cover tomorrow, which is measuring the distance to the sun and moon.
Nah, not 1, 7.
7?
That one seems
Oh,
a lot more.
I thought you
pertinent.
just had like a little stroke and just kept hitting the paste button or something. No, there is actually 7 of them. My God, what's that all about? Might as well show the audience. There's loads of these. What's? Okay, there's obviously more to this than meets the eye. QE, do you want to fill us in?
I just ran into it. Came into my recommendations, and the number 7 one came in, and I thought he said it was a series, and I said, "Oh shit, what do we got here?" So you don't have to do it today. You can whatever.
It's
Just
because
get
there's
going
about a
with it.
month's worth of material there if they're all 20 minutes long, which I suspect they probably will be.
You could do your physicist or other guy today. That's fine.
Simon Whistler, I don't believe, is a physicist, but we're going to be covering this by the numbers that Adam's just given me, so it's just slightly ahead with today I found out. Okay, so you know the routine. As with always, go and let Simon Whistler, I believe that's his name, I used to watch this guy, know that Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Maybe leave a nice comment. We like your video or something like that. But at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, just to let this person know, we are sharing the algorithmic love by sending people to come and comment on your video, even though you don't really need it. You've got much, much bigger subscriber base than I have. Even so, we've sent our audience, small though it may be, 25,000, wow, to your channel. And that's because we've responded to whatever we now going to cover on this video. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, anything anybody wants to add before I press play, rather than straight after I press play for the first time?
Well, he's going to probably be a little pedestrian, but I guess you can have fun with that.
Guys, today's episode was an absolute beast to make, and it is truly possible because of sponsors like Dollar Shave Club. If you want to support us, Dollar Shave Club is one of the best ways to do that, and you can do it store and cheap razor, the expensive razor, $5 each. If that I got that replaced, and so I wanted to get started with Dollar Shave Club and support today.
I don't care about your gross razors.
To be fair, Dollar Shave Club do make very nice arse wipes.
Go to dollarshaveclub.com/brainfood. Get started today for just $5. And like I said, if you've thought about supporting us, Dollar Shave Club is a really easy way.
Don't know what about with timestamps.
How long is this damn ad?
What? Who
Look.
for? Dollar Shave Club?
For Dollar Shave Club, Alwyn?
Yeah. You ever been to Dollar Shave Club? Because they make.
I've never heard of Dollar Shave Club. Now all I can think about is Dollar Shave Club.
It's based when you shave your head.
Look, let's not be no ad homs, no poison in the well.
And with that said, let's get into today's video. Alright, so contrary to popular belief, a decent percentage of the human population has known definitively the Earth was roughly spherical for over 2,000 years.
Do you think that'll be a baseless assertion? Place your bets now.
This is hardly impressive as
support that with, or is he just going to state it as fact and move on and mention Dollar Shave Club?
Probably.
Well, he just contradicted himself because he used the word belief, then he went on to use the word know. So they're completely different things. If you know something, yeah.
Good point. And it's an argument to age fallacy.
That's a new one. What's that mean?
That's not a new one.
Maybe I misheard what you just said. Eggshells, did you say?
No, I said argument to age fallacy.
Oh, I thought, no, my hearing. Got my youngest in. My wife's held hostage on a phone call. So when I stepped away, I was yelling at her, going, "What's going on? Why are the kids going nuts?" And she's being held hostage by a client on a phone call. So my youngest is in the room with us.
As we noted in our Brain Food Show podcast, which you should also check out, bees also use this fact in their own absurdly fascinating navigation and in communicating directions to other bees. As for humans, we took a little longer to realize this, with Pythagoras from the 6th century BC, generally credited with being the first known person to have suggested a spherical Earth, though the idea didn't exactly catch on at that point.
Why would it be an idea? Why would Pythagoras, a man famed with triangles, be only offering up this as a suggestion at this stage when there's been masses of people that tell us that we've known explicitly for thousands of years. Now, he's now telling us in a seemingly vague, I'm being honest about the fact that people didn't automatically accept that the Earth was spherical. So, I mean, why do we get these contradictory stories coming from their origins? In some instances, it's been known for thousands of years. You'd be stupid and a caveman if you didn't. Whereas this guy's saying they didn't automatically accept the idea. Idea? Belief? What? Well, these are strange words, not often used by globe believers.
Well,
Have there been cited bees? Have I genuinely heard that bees?
Yes.
How many bees did he ask? Did he just ask the queen bee how they did it, or did he give any? I must have missed that, but did he specify why bees is a valid thing?
No, it came after a baseless assertion about the Earth being spherical. And then he talked about bees. That's correct. He made a complete non sequitur backed by zero evidence, Adam. Yes.
Yeah, just bees, man.
He
Bees.
also
Plus he
also
says
said
like,
Pythagoras.
sorry, Brian.
One, you go one deck.
I was saying. Plus, he says like, oh, it took a while for this to catch on. Now, that's just sort of like saying it took a while for the people to be brainwashed, because obviously, if there's evidence of something and proof, it doesn't have to catch on. It's just plain and simple, black and white. It doesn't need to be caught on.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the point I was going to make is he brought up Pythagoras. Pythagoras never claimed anything about the Earth being a globe. Pythagoras, what he was an extension of Chaldean and Babylonian geometry and mathematics. That's what he was. He never claimed that about. Maybe people after him claimed it, but he never claimed that about the Earth being a sphere. He liked the geometry of a sphere because he loved geometry. He loved numbers. He loved anything to do with that.
But there was a whole
He's famous
school
for-
based on
yeah.
him after that, and they
Yeah,
might have
well-
gone for globe belief. But
Isn't
not
it
him.
incumbent-
Well, he's famous for the solving of the right triangle. Sorry, okay.
No, isn't it
Right,
isn't it incumbent upon him to show evidence of that?
Aristotle, 4th century BC, agreed and supported the hypothesis with observations such as that the southern constellations rise higher in the sky when a person travels south. He also noted that during a lunar eclipse, the Earth's shadow is round. Much more definitively, the 3rd century BC head librarian of the Library of Alexandria, Aristotle,
He didn't even give a hypothesis. What the hell's wrong with that dude?
He said a lot of key words there, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Good morning, guys.
Morning, Chocolate.
Got to check your Skype for goodness sakes. And good morning.
We might need to go back to the first sentence that he said there, Nathan, and pick out all the keywords, because there's 3 or 4 words there that need to be disseminated.
Dissected.
I'm
Whatever.
still not over bees, guys. I'm just reading now. There's nothing about bees.
Oh
And about-
God, this is kicking off great.
Obviously, Nathan, we're not here at the
Eratosthenes
minute.
Does mention 2000 BC.
built on their ideas
Bees prove globe now? What did I miss?
and managed to calculate the circumference of the Earth with remarkable accuracy. How?
At least he used the right word. At least he said calculate. Shout out to
I think
Jardo.
Nathan-
Hold on one second, Anthony. Shout out to Jardo. When I think it means did, Aristotle travel below the equator, he didn't. The equator's a concept that's been derived from elevation angle measurements to Polaris, their minimum being the equator value. But to say he travelled below it would be to infer that there's an antipodal positioning system in place, Jardo. Nobody can do that. So he didn't, in answer to your question. Thanks for the super chat. Go ahead,
Nathan,
Anthony.
it went a little bit. It went a little bit weird then, and I suspect that you might have unintentionally been on mute because there was periods of silence, and then the video started playing, and we were like, "Eh."
No, that wasn't unintentional. My wife came in to take possession of the youngest child that was causing enough audio chaos for me to just stay on mute.
Right. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe
well,
we
he
can
said
play that Could we play the first sentence of his what he said then about when he said, did he say something like Aristotle agreed with the hypothesis and he did lots of repeated experiments or something along them lines? Because there was lots of key words in what he said. Like maybe we could play that again.
Librarian of the Library of Alexandria, Eratosthenes, built on their ideas and managed to calculate the circumference of the Earth with remarkable accuracy. How? Well, he simply used the knowledge that at noon on the summer solstice there was a well in Syene where the sun shone directly down to the bottom with no shadow. Thus, at noon on summer solstice, he...
Who wants to cover this?
I guess that would be a no there, Anthony.
Yeah, I guess it was. But the sun would shine directly over a well, causing no shadow on a flat plane equally as well as it would on a sphere. Just wanted to point that out.
I'll cover it. No, what Eratosthenes did was he used an elevation angle between using the shadow of an obelisk in Alexandria. And he used an elevation angle to determine the distance between that obelisk and the well in Syene, which would be a horizontal baseline. He then pre-assumed that if the sun rays were coming in parallel, that he could calculate the Earth to be a globe, even though he had just measured it to be flat.
Yeah,
and he pre-assumed that the sun rays were parallel. But the shadows we see in reality, right, the exact same shadows are given to us by a full moon as they are by the sun. So debunking all claims of light being coming in parallel, even though it didn't mean anything because they had already just measured it flat.
Used a rod to a faulty premise.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I didn't know if you was talking there and I cut over. When he does this, he says there's two options. It's either a close, local, small sun, or a large, distant sun. And this was the point of it, to differentiate that as well. Except we have a bad moon shadow.
This is the point where I want to ask, like, it's a bit of a rhetorical question, but it's got a genuine backbone to it. You know how we often state that they can calculate anything in the maths? They just make the maths fit the solution, and then hey, you get an answer, and then all of a sudden you reaffirm that mathematics, and then all of a sudden it's a ball. They calculate it into a ball, right? You know when they say things like, how far away is the sun? And then we never answer it because, like, if the minute you put a number to it, you're making a claim, right? And then no matter how you word it, like, they just want to attack that claim because you made the claim. This is where, when we talk about the sun in this topic and triangles, I always think to myself, this is the bit where if you applied a different set of maths, the sun's probably going to end up being 59 miles away. So, like, the radius of the Earth would be equal to the distance to the sun or the height above the Earth on a flat plane. You just got to work out the maths to it. But it wouldn't surprise me if it ended up being 39.59. Reasons. Just bear that in mind.
Well, Brian...
Can I make the point now?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so Eratosthenes' claim was that it could either be on a ball, big and far away, or on a flat plane, close and small. Now he does this and he makes the assumption, and we follow that the sun is big and far away and we're on a ball. However, as we found with the sundials, the moon dial gives exactly the same readings. Now, it's not to say it proves either, but it proves, what it does prove is that his logic was faulty in his reasoning, because what we've now got is a big, far away sun, but also a close, local, small moon. So the point of distinguishment he was supposed to be making is negated by the bad moon shadow. So it makes it, that's what debunks Eratosthenes, his initial logic and point of differentiation, that it's either on a ball and big and far away, or on a flat plane, local and small. So the bad moon shadow destroys that initial premise for him to make the distinction. Done.
Exactly, because they can't make the claim.
I do have I've read it before, but I've got a poem exactly on this topic with the maths involved, if you want to hear it.
The poem?
Yeah, I've read it before, but it just explains how he did it.
Yeah, but if we're going to do a poem, I just want to prompt everyone to go on mute. Go ahead, One Deck.
It's called The Greeks Play Tricks. It was way, way back in 200 BC that a Greek measured Earth using mathematical trickery. So here it is. I'll explain what he did by measuring angles using shadows and sticks. He presumed in one location at the zenith of a well, he had sunlight coming down straight and parallel. In another location, 500 stadia away, a stadia for ease is a mile, we'll say, he again measured the angle of the sun. Whoops, I'll just explain what he's done. He just measured an angle using the surface of Earth. But you can't measure angles by using a curve. This is point 1, proving Earth is flat. But we don't want to get hung up on that. The angle he measured, 500 stadia away, was 7.2 degrees, we'll just say. Right then, what next? What do? We just need to presume Earth a sphere of 360 degrees here. Then divide 360 by 7.2, that gives us 50. Now what do? He times that 50 by stadia 500, which equals 25,100, giving us supposed Earth's circumference. So this is how the Greeks measured a sphere, using straight line angle measurements. Oh dear, oh dear. It's surprising what mathematics can do when you sprinkle on some wizardry and trickery too.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, One Deck.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Nice.
That was the guy who just handed Dave McKeegan his own arse. Also, shout out to everyone who shared the show. We're 100 people watching already, which is absolutely fantastic. So please share the show if you've not done so already. Really appreciate your support. Thank you, everyone who's already shared.
One Deck, you are a lyrical murderer, my friend. Good stuff.
Of the shadow made in Alexandria and found it to be about 7 degrees or about 1/50th of a circle. With this information, he now just needed to know the exact distance between Syene and Alexandria to get...
When he says degrees of a circle, just go back to his diagram. This is where the do-si-do takes place, really. Because what he's describing is the circle of a protractor placed at the centre of the sphere Earth. That's why he's got it marked here, centre of Earth. Why is the angle going to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Well, because the angle, as just detailed in the poem by One Deck, is an angle measurement off a flat baseline. That's what the angle actually is. But if you haven't got a flat baseline to use, you can take that angle to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Then the angle is actually originating at the centre at something that we describe as the equatorial plane, and is what will be superimposed over the top of a globe with the dome of the heavens superimposed over the top of that, meaning that the angle measurement is always going to come from the centre of Earth at the equatorial flat plane. Now, when he details, as I say, the angle being in reference to a circle, it's the do-si-do from surface level angle measurements with things like sextants, or in this case sticks and shadows, to a protractor turning at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, depicted here with centre of Earth. Why do you need that? You're not standing there. Why are we assuming it's a spherical surface? Well, Adam's gone over the bad moon shadow in terms of the logic applied, and it doesn't comport with the fact that the moon produces the exact same result on a moon dial as you get out of a sundial, meaning that the inference that we have a distant sun and a slightly closer moon, just coincidentally looking the same apparent size, is immediately debunked. The logic doesn't stack up if you can show something else that eradicates that use of logic when presupposing Earth's a sphere, which it is, and eradicating the angles taken off a flat plane, which it is. So this is riddled. Anything else anyone wants to add before I move back on?
Yeah, you said presupposing Earth's a sphere, which it is. You just said that a moment ago. It's not a sphere.
No, presupposing that it's a sphere. It is a presupposition. Not it is a sphere. It is a begging the question fallacy, is what I mean when I say it is. It is presupposing it.
In Alexandria and found it to be about 7 degrees or about 1/50th of a circle. With this information, he now just needed to know the exact distance between Syene and Alexandria to get the circumference of the Earth.
What, the flat baseline horizontal distance? Yeah, that'll need a flat Earth too, won't it?
About 50 times the distance between Syene and Alexandria. He hired a survey crew known as Bemetists to measure the distance, which...
How did they do that? Do you want to take us through the details of how they measured the distance? Because we've had
A survey crew, 200 to 300 years BC. I'd like to see that survey.
Yeah, we'd like that backed by some evidence, please.
3 camels and a load of rope.
But ultimately, in terms of the current...
From Alexandria to Syene, just look at it on the map. That's all of Egypt. And how mountains, rivers, how... What they could have done,
But
worked out their elevation angle to Polaris.
Well, they could have done it with a flat Earth. They still
just
do
got
to this.
some hard pipe hitting surveyors.
I was going to say, we've talked to surveyors today who make it explicitly clear, even if they're geodesic surveyors. They'll tell us all about how they're referencing horizontal. Flatsoid recently had one on a show. Made it explicitly clear, all of the height differentials are ignored when we're getting horizontal distance measurements. There's no elevation taken into account whatsoever. Now, he, in his description, this is the surveyor, thinks he's just ignoring the topology of the land increasing or decreasing, and doesn't recognise, when he's making this devastating declaration to Flatsoid, that simultaneously means he's ignoring any apparent claimed curvature that would also be affecting the measurement. That isn't taken into account. Well, it can have the topology raising or lowering with valleys and hills ignored if you're getting a horizontal distance on a flat plane, and it'll be correct. You cannot if Earth's falling away 8 inches per mile squared. But that's not how we measure Earth. It's not how we map Earth. If you go to Google Earth and draw out an elevation profile, that's what it'll show. Earth is flat.
5,000 stadia. He then concluded that the Earth must be about 250,000 stadia around.
Why? When you've just taken a horizontal measurement distance and you've taken angle measurements off a flat plane, why would you then completely destroy the angle measurements that you've taken by claiming that Earth is therefore a sphere? It makes no logical sense.
Depending on which stadion measurement he was using.
1 second. Some years ago there, I looked at the Flat Earth Society website, right? And they have a thing up there on their website about Eratosthenes. And it's one of the things they have on their website that actually makes some sense. And they show that through what he actually did, that he would have only measured a portion of a longitude line, horizontal longitude line. He actually measured part of the diameter of basically part of the diameter of a flat plane. If we take the latitude and longitude grid in as it is naturally, which is a flat grid. That's actually all he did. There's all this stuff added in about him doing all kinds of stuff to do with spheres and the sun and sun rays. No, we have to deal with all them claims. But what he actually did was just measure a portion of a diameter.
I think you failed to account for something.
What's that?
He had some hard pipe hitting surveyors.
You like that, right?
It's the oldest critique of this, and to me still the most sensible, because it makes the whole thing incredulous, is whether he did it at the same time of the year in the two places with two sets of different people, or he did it the following year in the different place. How the hell did he know when he was in Syene what time he had to take his reading there when it was 12 o'clock in Alexandria? How did he transport local time from Alexandria to Syene to know to take his second reading? It's a complete impossibility at the time.
Messenger pigeon?
Well, do you get me? How do you transport local time if you don't know where the places are and how far apart they are?
Smoke signals.
500 miles.
I'm with the pigeon.
Stop
Yeah,
the
pigeon. Carrier pigeon.
Get me?
Yep.
It's
Using
an
his
Nah,
impossibility
I hear you, Adam. Yeah,
to take
of
the
course.
readings to draw the conclusion. You've got to know that you've got a grid system already to calculate the relative times in the first place, and know the distances in the first place to calculate the relative times. It's circular logic, this.
Especially if they get, according to Brian, if they're taking the distances according to Flat Earth Society, again, this is pretty loose, but we're playing fast and loose at the moment, so it goes. Right? It sounds like they've extrapolated out the distance from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris and just utilised the difference on the grid. That would be the flat Earth grid. Let's just get nice and close to the mic. We're currently talking about the flat Earth grid that is used to develop the globe. The one that the opponents on the anti-flat Earth side don't want to talk about at the moment. Yeah, that's right. That's the latitude lines taken from elevation angle measurements off a flat Earth to give you that grid. Just wanted to make that absolutely clear that we're talking about the flat Earth grid, the one that gave you your sphere, the one that came from a flat Earth and then got wrapped around a spherical surface, the one that's measured off a flat Earth. Yeah, I just want to make that absolutely clear. Who is it? Was it Fight the Flat Earth that said it was unimportant?
Fight the tight shirt himself.
Really?
Unimportant, irrelevant. We don't need to talk about it.
We don't, do we not? Oh, well, we're going to labour on that point. We hadn't until you specifically said that you didn't want to talk about it, Craig. I mean, it was just part of our arsenal like everything else, but it wasn't laboured and named and shamed with your name on it. But according to Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, he's told us we shouldn't talk about the flat Earth proof that is the grid system used, developed by latitude measurements off a flat plane. We shouldn't be talking about that, apparently, according to Craig. Perhaps you'd like to leave, if you're a globe believer, in the comments your feelings and thoughts about Craig explicitly making it plain that we should not talk about this flat Earth proof that was used to develop a globe belief for all of you. I just want to know how that makes you feel. As there's 120 people watching, there's obviously some globe believers amongst you who may have some feelings, some opinions, either about Dave Triangles McKeegan, making it explicitly clear that you can't get height measurements to stars because you need flat Earth elevation angle measurements with triangles and flat baselines. Or Craig Fight the Flat Earth, who's made it explicitly clear that he does not want to have anything to do with the flat Earth proof that was used to develop the globe in the form of the grid system that's flat. He doesn't want to talk. I'd like to know from you all in the comments, because this is a very interesting turn of events from the anti-flat Earth side of this argument. I think you'll all agree.
It was either 1% too small or 16% too large. Many scholars think it likely he was using the Egyptian stadion, 157.5 meters, being in Egypt at the time, which would make his estimate roughly 1% too small. All right, so moving on to the so-called Dark Ages, in which
But what you've done is you've shown us how it could be wrong, and we've pulled it apart based on its methodology for using a flat Earth. What was this proving again? Sorry, what's the title of this video? Who started the flat Earth conspiracy theory? So far, we've pulled apart your examples of how Earth is spherical for how they used a flat Earth. I'm not exactly sure you understand who the conspiracy theorists are. We expose conspiracies. We were only discussing this the other night. I think it was in the yesterday after show. But we aren't a conspiracy. Flat Earth isn't a conspiracy. People have conspired to deceive the world that it is spherical. And they've used a flat Earth measurement system to do it. Now, we are exposing that conspiracy. So it's a nonsensical statement to ask who started a flat Earth conspiracy, because that works under the assumption that you are correct and Earth is spherical when your examples prove Earth's flat, as we have just gone through.
Christianity supposedly squashed.
He also said that Eratosthenes was either 1% smaller or 16% bigger. Then what? What is this thing that he's supposed to be 1% smaller and 16% bigger than?
Stadium measurement.
But he's actually referring to their circumference.
No, he's talking about the stadium measurement.
I know he was talking about that, how that would have caused it, but he said in the end, he said, so because it was stadium, that would have mean that he was 1% smaller. Smaller than what?
Brian's pointing out that he's making apologetics for how wrong it is. And more importantly, to Brian's point, Wrong in reference to what? So it's back to, you did this a couple of years ago, and Brian 2 weeks before that, where you pointed out that when they tell you that they got within 5% of the measurement of R, all right, and the measurement of R itself came from what now? Because they never get to that, do they? Oh, we came within 16%. Right. Of what?
Of
Do
the
we even
measurement
get
they,
into-
they didn't take yet. That's what.
Sorry, Chocolate. Do we even get into the end state of this guy who everybody thinks measured the circumference of the Earth? That he starved himself to death? Hello? I was a madman.
Huh?
Are you sure you've not looked up the wrong person? Anthony, quick, get on this.
Such outlandish ideas as a spherical.
Oh, sorry, got some objections from Armin. Go ahead.
No, that was me. I said he starved himself to death. Look it up.
We got that.
Aristoteles,
We
right?
heard.
That's just an animal.
Truth is exactly the opposite. In Christian medieval Europe, 7th century Catholic monk and scholar Bede produced an influential treatise that included a discussion of the spherical nature of the world. This work, The Reckoning of Time, was copied and distributed to clerics across the Carolingian Empire. Later in the 1300s, Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy also describes the Earth as a sphere, and again, nobody seemed to have a problem with this.
Right. Jesus. What a standard. And in the year 20,035, Bill Gates described the Earth as a banana. Nobody seemed to have an issue, therefore Earth became a banana. That's your logic.
Yeah, that's an appeal to silence, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is an appeal to silence fallacy.
It's a moron.
Appeal. Oh, I get
Oh, boom, boom. Appeal.
Well, Neil got it, damn it.
The Catholics and later other branches of Christianity weren't the only religious sects that seemed to have its clergy and scholars almost universally think that the world was spherical.
They came up with it. What are you saying, when they were the ones who developed it?
Islamic world also concurred, as historian Jeffrey
Concurred? What, with the people who developed the ideas and notions that nobody objected to?
Burton Russell sums up with
People,
extraordinary.
Nathan, the people that developed it after previously declaring it a heresy.
Yeah, indeed. Once it was mathematically sound for figuring out when Easter would be, it was perfectly allowed, because their clerics and their priests came up with it.
Few exceptions, no educated person in the history of Western civilization from the 3rd century BC onward believed that the Earth was flat.
You earlier told us
Wow.
that the people were objecting to it, though.
Wow.
So that's a completely contradictory statement to what you declared earlier, which was that it wasn't immediately accepted. So if it wasn't immediately accepted, and yet this statement is true that nobody believed it was flat, then how can those two statements coexist simultaneously? The answer is they can't. It's a glaring contradiction.
Yeah. He did reference, he's doing himself though, because he's made that statement, but he started out admitting that in the times of Plato, that the Platonic schools didn't believe it. It was only the Pythagorean school, and their thoughts weren't happily accepted. Then follows up with a statement that no educated person. So that would imply that the Platonic schools weren't educated, only the Pythagorean. Total, utter contradiction.
Beyond the academics of the Western world, even the most empty-headed sailor knew the Earth was spherical simply by the fact.
Really? The sailors that were using elevation angle measurements to determine their position, were they doing it on this giant curve? Or were they establishing a flat baseline with their sextant? See, this is
So we've got
Go on.
We've got educated people who know it's a ball, and now even stupid sailors know it's a ball. It's quality evidence. I mean, if stupid sailors know it's a ball, then it must be, mustn't it? I mean,
They're
what
measuring
more
it flat,
proof do you
though.
need?
They're measuring it flat. They're using
Yeah.
angles to stars and GPs that have 90 degrees below them. So he's wrong. Flat out wrong, mate.
Sounds empirical to me.
Ships disappear over the horizon with.
And were the ships that disappear over the horizon being utilised for anything in any practical way, I ask myself? Did they then look out with their binoculars and go, I use this observation that ships disappear hull first to do something? What do they do with it? What's that? Anybody? Anybody at all? Oh, absolutely nothing. There's just your globe Earth inference that can be drawn for it, which has no useful practical application whatsoever. That's very interesting. Now, when they actually used expensive optical equipment, that would be the lenses attached to things like sextants, they didn't look at them and just infer a religious belief when they looked at them. They used them to not die. Not to worship Helios, because the ships are falling over the edge of Earth. Yeah, you heard me right. You've just told an audience that boats fall over edges. Yeah? No practical use for this statement whatsoever. It's not going to save their lives at sea. But utilising the horizon you think boats fall over to establish that Earth is flat, to get angles to stars and their GPs that have got 90 degrees to their position, proving Earth is flat. That's something they can practically apply with their expensive optical equipment that they're using to not die. Now, I want any glober to trump using that equipment at sea to not die with a comparable practical application of boats falling over the edge for a seaman. So, just to be clear what I'm asking for, I want a comparative practical use for the observation of an assumption that boats fall over the edge of a globe Earth horizon versus angle measurements to a flat Earth established baseline with the horizon to not die if lost. Let's see how you get on, globe-believing idiots. Earth's flat. That's precisely how it's navigated. People live as a result of knowing that fact. Watching boats fall over the edge of a globe is merely a religious fancy that dumbos like this think seamen who he's never met and is using as an example of people being thick. Use for what? What, they saw boats fall over your globe edge? And then what did they do with that? Nothing. Meanwhile, horizontal baselines can be established to stop them dying. Shout out to Mike. Huygens, Kepler, Copernicus, Galileo were laymen. Yeah, Mike, that's the sentiment, right, Adam? Thank you for the super chat.
But Nathan, he couldn't possibly be talking about a physical sphere edge that these boats are going over, right? Because that geometry has been relinquished. So I don't know if he's been keeping up to date, flat Earth debate, but
this came out 3 years ago.
Chocolate.
This came out 3 years ago. Just to be clear, right? Chocolate's objection's perfectly sound. He's saying, while you might say that these sailors took their religious inferences from a non-practically useful horizon with boats falling over it, that inference came from a geometric tangent point horizon that's physical for them to fall over. And that was relinquished back in 2020 because we debunked it with the black swan on screen now. If the Earth was a sphere, radius 3959, then every distance to this horizon in this picture could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, putting it much closer to us and making it non-geometric in nature. Response from the globe believers, it's refracted. So, Simon, no. According to your own kind, that's globe-believing numpties, boats don't go over a geometric Earth curve, tangent point measured in Earth curve maths to tell us how much it's blocked by when it falls over your globe edge. That has no practical application. Now they go over refraction, debunking all geometric assertions of geometric edges to fall over. Yeah? So if you want to be more accurate in line with your debunked globe belief that isn't useful to sailors, you could say that the boats were observed to go over the refraction. Not that that really proves anything and isn't practically useful for anything either. Especially when they use that exact same horizon to establish Earth as flat so they can get angles to stars to find their position with. With thousands of miles in all directions with 90 degrees to navigatable GP positions below navigation stars that we know the position of above the flat land that they will be measured upon. Because they've got 90 degrees below them at their GP position. That's how triangulation functions. On a flat Earth for a sailor. Regardless of his religious beliefs of things falling over edges.
Maybe he needs to be told where his belief that things are falling over a geometric sphere edge comes from. Maybe he doesn't understand that.
Maybe he doesn't, and I think we should be the ones to let him know. So be sure to let this numpty know. With the kindest of all comments, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And when he sees there's plenty of people going to his comments from our meager 25,000 subscribed channel to say Nathan Oakley 1980 or at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, because they did a response, maybe he'll make a response to me, pointing out that no, the religious belief that boats fall over globe Earth edges debunked in 2020 does actually have a practical application. And your inference that elevation angle measurements to the GP positions below stars that are measured on a flat plane because it's a prerequisite in order to get the angle, that's not practically used to save lives at all. Maybe if he was to make such a response, he'd put a link to my video in the same way that I'm putting a link to his. So go and let him know by way of clicking on the link that's going to be going by right now in the live stream chat. And hopefully he'd reciprocate and put a link to my video if he was to respond with some defence of how he thinks that sailors' use of a edge for boats to fall over is somehow going to trump lives being saved with flat Earth elevation angle measurements to the horizon and stars with GPs that have got 90 degrees below them. Let him know, Nathan Oakley, or at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
I got something
122
to
people
say.
watching.
Hold
Go
on
ahead.
1 second, John. Hal, I don't care what you say. The way I see it, there is no way navigators could have even believed the Earth was a sphere if they're using celestial navigation. How? I don't get how they could turn around and say, okay, it's a globe. There's no way.
Well, hold on. See, the thing is, it's a misapplication and misuse of the mathematics, and it's taking the differential between eye level and sea level as you raise in altitude to construct this sphere. So even the idea that boats fall over the horizon required a flat Earth.
To construct the geometry, the geometric tangent point horizon is derived from the differential between surface level, remember that word, the surface level, and eye level. That's what gives you a tangent point in the maths. Where is that tangent point, given that it's had a geometric requirement for surface level? Well, the geometric Earth curve edge is below surface level. Let that sink in for a second. John, I want you to keep repeating this. Not this second, but you know what I mean.
Before you do that, maybe this would be a good time to reiterate our number one housekeeping question.
Any evidence?
Because, I mean,
Any
yeah,
evidence
that-
you can acquire a physical geometric sphere edge horizon? Or any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? Which one?
yeah, the formerly known as the curve of the Earth.
Any
Yeah,
evidence of a
first.
physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Yeah. Why is it again that it's formerly known again? Just a reminder for this dude, just in case he happens to listen.
Because we've only got one horizon. The horizon in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is geometric. It's a tangent point with a straight line to it. That is Earth curve. The horizon we see in reality isn't a geometric tangent point below surface level. So formerly known as Earth curve because the horizon is not only singular, it's not Earth curve.
Yeah, because if you take what John, we take what, like, because I know what John has been saying, I knew it from the start. Because the thing of it is, the point is, no matter how much over 6R, because they always have to claim, they claim that the horizon is always refracted, but it doesn't matter how much over 6R as you add in, it'll never be a horizontal. That's the point. So it will always be below, even the refracted horizon will always be below surface level, because surface level is horizontal. And they can never have an horizontal because they have an over 6R problem.
That's
And even if-
devastating.
Even if it was refracted, it can never be a curve. It's always a wobble line, like so based on a straight line, but with like wobbles, deviating from that straight line is what refraction actually is. At no point is it ever a curve. So like it's just wrong in the first place. The moment they say refraction, it doesn't mean that curves suddenly exist. It's just nonsense.
It's a refracted horizon as a married bachelor.
This is
Yeah, that's
terrestrial
the-
refraction, magic refraction, 7/6
Yeah, it's
R
not-
refraction. It's not refraction.
Yeah, it's not refraction. It's not like inferior mirage or something like that. This is pure mathematical. And it all takes place below surface level. That's the point. It
I'm
has
just
to
gonna
take
say,
place
I'm
below
really sorry
surface
to
level.
interrupt. I'm going to have to clarify this because I'm listening to it thinking that's going to be confusing for an audience member. So it's refraction, terrestrial refraction, 7/6R refraction. It's not refraction. That's what they've just said. Shout out to Goldie, first of all, for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Kiwi did a really good sort of exercise with this, which is to say, does light deviate when it traverses different mediums? Yes or no?
Yes.
Is light traversing different mediums 7/6 of a radius value also known as terrestrial refraction? Yes or no?
No.
Right. That's what we mean when we say it's not refraction. Light deviating from straight as it traverses a different medium is Snell's law. That's refraction. 7/6R isn't refraction. It's called terrestrial, otherwise known as standard refraction. Brian and Sleeping Warrior's objection being, you're never going to get a horizontal. Yeah, it's a deviation away from straight as opposed to a perfect curve. Now, in their mathematics, that's not the case because they're not dealing with refraction. It isn't refraction. It's a value based on an R that has a tangent point to it. That's a straight line to a horizon in the maths. So we're talking about how bent the line is to the horizon, which in the maths has a straight line to it.
But hang on. I stated it was. I know that's what I'm going to now, Neil. I stated that it was mathematical. See, I have to keep everything I say short because you start playing a video over me. That's the problem.
Yeah, Nathan.
So that's why I'm not getting to explain stuff.
Yeah,
but
Brian.
there is no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is no 7/6R because there is no R because our R is based on the pre-assumption of a geometric horizon that can never be seen and never be geometric because their claim is that it's always refracted. So there is no R value to start with. So that's why it always has to be mathematical because the R value is only in the maths.
The bottom
so
first.
It's only a mathematical claim.
You stopped and then started again just as I started the video. You were doing that for comedic effect.
Then the mast is sighted. A similar effect is observed when spotting land from a ship. It really doesn't take a rocket surgeon to realize that the sea's surface must curve continually, despite.
Really? So let me get straight.
Yeah.
You can figure out where that. Go on. Who wants to go? Because I'm not going to get it. Obviously.
Well, that is a known
Rocket
point.
surgeon?
Yeah, rocket surgeon and brain scientists.
You know, I didn't even hear the next point he said because I focused on the rocket surgeon as well, and I was like, whatever he just said next didn't even compute to me. But there is no such thing as a rocket surgeon.
No, he has actually done. No, right, stop. I've made an objection that he hasn't offered up a practical application for this claim. Now he's saying this is useful for finding land out at sea. Okay, so his claim is that when mariners get lost, they can see land coming into the distance from the bottom up. Okay. How the fuck do they find the land again? Oh, right, yeah, with elevation angle measurements to the navigational stars that they've got in their almanac, having a really good chronometer on board, having a sextant, and measuring Earth flat. So that they can point their boat in the direction to eventually reify the ball when the land comes into view. Yeah, they wouldn't be finding that land if they were lost, unless they navigated the Earth flat. So while the rejoice, we can see the land coming into view over the hill that we just measured flat, is that what they'd say? No, I think not. I think when everybody despaired because they didn't know where the hell they were, they'd look to the navigator and expect him to know implicitly that Earth is going to be measured flat with angles. Otherwise, they won't get home.
Also, he just said that sea level is curving.
That's an oxymoron contradiction in terms. Original D-Rose, thanks for super chat. Don't know about any of you, but I have never and still don't observe any curvature or feel any rotation of the Earth I stand upon. Just saying. I completely agree, neither do I. It's because there isn't any and we're not turning. Also, shout out to D-Rose for the super chat. Amend them. And I'm an old fart that's been around. Okay, well, I mean, fair enough if you needed to qualify that you've been around a bit. Thanks for the super chats. Really appreciate the support.
Like this, there really still is a tiny percentage of the world's population who believe that the world is flat.
Alrighty, what percentage is that?
Not
I've
a
been
belief.
really intrigued to know how many flat earthers there are. And here you are 3 years ago, unbeknownst to me, with the percentages for this. Tiny, right? Give it me in a number and then show me how you got the result for that number, that percentage. Can you show us that?
Maybe he should go talk to the other guy that we listened to. I don't remember his name. The guy that was running around saying that, oh, because you guys falsely assert that we should even observe this curvature, you guys are the reason that the flat earth community has grown. So maybe he should go have a talk with him.
This is,
You might at this point.
this is about to smash us with science. I mean, statistics. But fundamentally, this is no longer about shape of the earth. It's about people's opinions now. So it's now psychology.
Well, what he said was, he said, besides all of that, there's still a tiny percentage of the world, blah, 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 believe it's flat. No. Besides all of what? What did he present that was anything that mattered?
Oh, he said they saw land
That
coming
was not
into view
e-
over the obviously curved edge horizon that, you know, you've measured potentially thousands of miles away, a GP position with a 90-degree below it and a flat baseline to your position where you measured it, to get to that land coming in view bottom first. Now, he hasn't mentioned perspective or limitations to the angle against the deck. He hasn't mentioned anything that could cause that other than Earth obviously being observed to be spherical when you rejoice because you found the land using a flat Earth and angles to it. He didn't mention any of the flat Earth elevation angle measurements that are actually practically used for navigating on ships. He just said these dull old sailors know that Earth's a sphere because they see boats going over an edge. So when they see boats falling over a globe edge, they know Earth's spherical. That was his argument.
That seemed his only claim that were of note, really, that fundamentally he's making the claim that the horizon is the geometric edge of a ball. And if he does bother to respond to that, that would be, to me, the pertinent one for you to go and demonstrate. After we've come quite a comprehensive debunking, but it'd be nice for you to either address that or demonstrate why it still is, 3 years after the Black Swan, thought to be a geometric physical edge due to geometry.
If you need help with that, I can recommend a guy called Glenn Williamson. He'll be able to help you out with that.
Point be wondering just how many.
Well,
While internet.
What's the odds that if he does decide to respond to it, that he's going to start showing us like punch out train?
It's a monument to globe Earth.
Yeah.
Comment threads make it seem as if the percentage is large. The reality is probably drastically.
Probably. Wow, that's an interesting weasel words. Okay, let's throw out Vic Reeves in terms of statistics. So Vic Reeves did an extensive study, and the statistic he came up with was that 63.4% of all statistics, I'll say that again, 63.4% of all statistics are made up on the spot.
Less. I mean, comment troll.
I was just going to say, does that include the statistic like you just said?
That 24.9% of all statistics are made up on the spot. No, that was as a result of a direct survey.
Are going to
that
troll.
checks out then.
Yeah. Didn't you know that 94.3% of all statistics were made up on the spot? Well, now you do.
Look below for examples. As for some numbers, according to a 2018...
It's an absolutely huge number of bald men that get rejected by women. It's an astronomically massive number. Did you know that? A huge percentage of women just are repulsed by men like this. You know, bald-headed men with a beard and glasses. Huge percentage. Massive, even. It's just like uncountable numbers of women that are repulsed by men like this. It's just shocking.
So we're now going to polls of the nature of our reality.
Yep.
Very interesting.
I can make up polls too. It's amazing, isn't it?
Poll run by the massive market research firm YouGov, the 8,215 responses, which were
69 million people in the UK.
chosen to have a high probability of accurately representing the wider adult populace showed 84%.
You're telling me that a couple of thousand people represent 69 million in the UK alone? What? Okay, well, we'll just accept it at face value then, I guess.
Of respondents said they have always believed the world is round. 5% stated, I always thought the world is round, but more recently, I am skeptical / have doubts. 2% stated, I have always thought the world is flat, but more recently, I am skeptical / have doubts. And 2% went with, I have always believed the world is flat. The remaining 7% stated, other or not sure.
So, when earlier he declared that in a particular time period, nobody in their right mind thought it was flat, he's debunked that again.
They're actually really strong numbers. I don't know what he's expecting for his consensus-based scientific proof of what people think. If you look at that, they're actually not bad. That's 2018 that we're at this point. So,
That's what I was thinking.
Like 7% not sure. So they're not going, it's a ball. 7% are saying, I'm not really sure. That's quite high. Yeah. 5% saying, I always thought the world was round, but more recently I'm skeptical. That's massive. They're not inconsiderate numbers if that's applied to, as Nathan said earlier, 60 million people.
Just for Sensual Goat's benefit, I made that statistic up. Sensual Goat, on the contrary, all women like bald heads. Well, I hope so, as I'm losing my hair rapidly. But I made it up. The point wasn't about the ad hom towards him. It was used in an overt way with an ad hom to labour the point about the statistic being made up by me.
Yeah, 49.3% of people never get that joke.
Exactly.
Does that mean you're going to become a bald pod?
Anyway, James Richard also, Sensual Goat, thank you very much for the super chat there. I really appreciate the support. Times are tough. Hence me begging for people to share and let this person know, which I'll get you to do now actually while I'm shouting out James Richard's super chat. So while I'm shouting this out, not that he doesn't deserve you all to hear my appreciation for his super chat, go and let this channel, which is Today I Found Out, know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and leave a reasonable, not to be deleted comment. And I'll say it as I've said it many times, the idea being that me saying, oh, it's hard times, please hit the PayPal link, doesn't work as well as building up the audience and hopefully getting more apathy, if that's the right word, from people who support the cause, because this show is entirely supported by people who support the cause. So expanding out those numbers by getting people to come here and see what we do, utterly obliterate totally nonsensical and fallacious reasoning from people like Simon Whistler here, and point out the statistics that he's even given are significant, and contradict his own point of view earlier when he said that nobody in their right mind would think Earth's flat. Well, you've got statistical significance in terms of your own bloody survey that you're presenting to contradict your own points. Now, if you like that kind of content, hopefully you'll come after seeing one of my ever so gracious viewers, in this case live viewers, that have clicked on that link, shared the algorithmic love, and left somebody who doesn't necessarily need any algorithmic love. Let's be honest, he's got over 3 million subscribers. But I would hope it was returned to me in the way Dave McKeegan didn't, the miserable sod. But there we go. Let's hope he put a link if he was to respond to us and say, nah, none of these statistics are statistically significant. Go ahead, Adam.
I think just when people are maybe commenting, if they are kind enough to do so, you could maybe say, today I found out that the horizon is not the leading edge of a ball Earth.
Perfect.
It's not.
Shout out to James Richards. He said, the only way to defend the globe is by using profane and vain babblings and opposition of science, falsely so called. Full stop. Thank you for the super chat.
Well, the 2% of people in that survey or whatever that said, yeah, that the Earth was flat, or they always believed the Earth was flat, that was that, right? He's either saying that that 2%, that 2% represents 2% of the British population. That means that either 2% of the British population, according to him, are crazy, or there's 2% of the British population that absolutely just accept what they see in reality.
That's 1.2 million people in the UK alone that he's saying there.
Yeah.
So that is not insignificant, is it?
That is
And that was 3
crazy...
years ago. Sorry.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah, on the one hand, wow, that's a crazy lot of number of people that would actually declare themselves as flat, which would automatically infer that given that the current Western world paradigm is that we're not flat, we're on a sphere, that there's plenty of people searching the subject. Then you realise why the anti-flat earthers, given that they have all of the searches directed towards them, do really nicely out of this subject, while I have to beg constantly for people to give me PayPals. That's why. We are censored heavily. They get the general interest of the population, which is significant, all directed towards them.
What I'd say on that is that when we're looking at those numbers, you see the bottom stat, the remaining 7% other, not sure. They'd be the ones that are trolling the internet for flat earth information. You're not sure. Yeah. You're not going to say, no, it's a globe. You're prepared in an interview or a questionnaire to say, I'm not sure. They're the people that are going to be looking. Now that would equate to 4.2 million people in the UK alone looking it up.
Yeah,
And the sad thing is, what are they going
Where
to
are they
find,
being
Adam?
directed?
Adam's making a point. Bloody hell, Neil. Yes, Adam. Where are they all being directed? Go ahead.
Well, that is the rhetorical question, isn't it? Where are they? Because this guy's saying and demonstrating there is a massive amount of interest, even in 2018. So, dude, like an appeal to you. We're struggling here. Help with the algorithm. Please give us a link if you do choose to respond.
Even before actually getting the numbers, just the fact that they're doing polls on this is funny. I thought we were in insignificant nothing.
Yeah, YouGov as well. Not,
You know?
yeah.
Sad thing is, what are they going to be finding when they do search flat Earth? Not going to be finding this channel.
My God. Yes, that. If it didn't sound like you were trying to make that as your own point, yeah, that was the point of the last 2-3 minutes that you've interrupted, Neil.
I just want
Yeah,
to comment
I was
on
trying to
that
get it out
statistic.
first.
Which one? The one that 64.9% of all statistics are made up on the spot? That one?
Yeah, yes, that. But no, that one. The one that Adam said. Yes, it is significant, but I want to point everybody back to what you said initially is that it is just a poll of 1,000 people, I believe, and inherently statistics are looked at by extrapolation, right? So yes, that is what's in the statistic, but it's not 100% accurate. But anyway, it's good to point out.
I totally get it. What you're saying is these statistics can be spun in any way you want to spin them. And in order to acquire them, you have to extrapolate them out in the first place. And obviously, depending on who's extrapolating them out and who's spinning them, you get a very different presentation of data with the exact same numbers. Yeah, I completely agree. However, regardless, as it's a hostile source, Adam's gone, yeah, I'll have that. And we'll point out the statistical significance based on him lending the credence he has lent to his statistics. And go, okay, based on your statistics, given that you give them credence, there's a shit ton of people looking for this subject. And I think we'd all agree Neil's point, that they're all being directed to the anti-flat earthers rather than me, who has to e-beg constantly. Smash the PayPal link if you want to support this channel.
Yeah, and what's wrong with me stealing Adam's point? I'm allowed to.
You can have it,
Owen does
Neil.
it all the time.
I just must point out that the questions that the audience in this poll were subjected to were also fraudulent. As in, did you always believe, like he said, 2% of the population said that they always believed the Earth was flat. Like I wouldn't answer any. If that's the only thing that even references me, I wouldn't even answer that because I don't have any belief, and I didn't always believe it. I found out it as a knowing in the past decade. Before that, I didn't always believe it. I didn't know what. I was just going along with what they said it was. It just had problems for me. But I know that it's flat. Not that I don't have any belief about it, so I wouldn't even press anything on that. I'd ignore that part. And
Gotcha.
I'm obviously a real flat earther.
No, I got you. What you're saying, again, it speaks to TBT, is it? And his point, which is to say that not only do you have to extrapolate out the numbers that you presented on screen with now, you also can skew how the survey is done in terms of the phraseology of the questions asked. Obviously, you're going to get a certain answer if you ask a certain question. Now, if you're asking people of their beliefs, And Brian saying, if I was strictly honest in a hypothetical sense, and they asked me about my belief in flat Earth, I couldn't even answer the question because I don't have a belief, and neither do I in flat Earth. I know it's flat. I can prove it. Is there any belief in that? No. It's the stuff that I can show practical application to save people's lives with the fact that Earth's flat. Yeah, there is. What's that? You see boats falling over an edge? Ah, fascinating. Very practically useful. Yeah. Your religious belief is worthless. My flat Earth facts save lives. You're going to trump that by asking me about my flat Earth belief. Get lost.
Yeah, it's kind of like flat side pose, where there's no way out if you're a baller.
Yeah, he's
Either
taken that.
accept it's flat or accept it's flat.
That's worth a plug, actually, Brian. If you check out Flatzoid's channel, Flatzoid Perspective is the name of the channel, right? FLATZOID. If you check that out, at the beginning or throughout his live streams, he'll ask completely and utterly outrageously loaded questions that only have one outcome. You know, am I an idiot for thinking Earth's a sphere, or Earth's flat and I know I'm not stupid, or something like that? You know, just an answer that no matter which way you answer is going to lead to the same result. People still vote in those, me included, by the way. It's just a bit of fun, isn't it? Oh, Arthur B. Flat's joined as a hyena. Woo-hoo-hoo! Thank you very much. Check out Arthur B's Flat channel as well, if that's how you say it. Arthur B. Flat channel. I'm going to say that once more. Arthur space B full stop space flat channel. Check it out. I did a little advert for him the other day, actually. We carry on?
Please, Lord.
I am skeptical / have doubts. And 2% went with, I have always believed the world is flat. The remaining 7% stated other or not sure. While the good people at YouGov certainly know their stuff with respect to getting accurate data that represents the wider populace, we were curious as to what a larger sample of our own audience would reveal, though with the caveat.
Sorry, you're not happy with him surveying his biased audience? What's wrong?
Yeah, this is preposterous. But like I said, it's going to be pedestrian, right?
And so that a general internet poll can sometimes be notoriously inaccurate. But for the curious, and for whatever it's worth, our poll asking more or less the same questions received over 72,000 votes. So
See, that's not bad compared to 2,500 or whatever the other YouGov survey did. I'd say this is, better. There's more people taking part. Let's see what the questions were.
No, I disagree totally, and I want to tell you why.
Yeah, great. Go ahead.
So part of the validation he's given twice for YouGov is that people are selected demographically. They're not invited to participate out of interest. So you will always get a much bigger skew, as demonstrated for because people will be outraged and will participate. Yeah. So you're going to get more people being negative because they're the ones that are more likely to take part, which is why this next set can't be as valid as a study that's going out and randomly selecting people. Does that make sense?
Hold on. I would like to oppose that. If I'm going to get a poll of what crayons taste the best, I'm going to have to go to mentally handicapped people to get that poll. So he's doing the same thing.
Yeah, he's already, like I say, your selection now is based on interest as opposed to your selection being based on demographics of the country. So age, sex, gender, what social class. That's how these 8,000 people would be selected, yeah, based on that to be representative. So the 50% be working class, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, yeah. We've got no representativeness a surety in a random open selection until you collate the data, and then you're going to have to skew the data based on certain bits, which is why this data, to me, you're bound to see more negative results because it's being opened to people that are interested.
What's on screen?
All I was saying here was just looking. I'll search for the YouGov thing. I can't find detail, but they've got all sorts of questions like ghost, etc. But the one I've got here is the Earth is flat. All US adults strongly agree, somewhat agree, somewhat disagree, strongly disagree, don't know, agree. Net agree is 6% if we just take, on average, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 10. So I would say call 6%. And what have we got? 330 million, isn't there? So 3.3 times 6, that's 19.8 million people that either agree or somewhat agree that the Earth is flat in America in 2018. Huge numbers.
Isn't that question malformed though? Because an aspect of something's shape isn't an agree-disagree question, I wouldn't think.
I agree. But they have to put out, it has to be a malformed question when you think about it.
I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think it's just the concept, like ghosts exist. I suppose you might need to
It's not
extrapolate
really.
all there.
But John, at the tip of the spear, John, you are so correct. But you have to be at the tip of the spear to appreciate that. And given that most people automatically infer or assume that they are just by default standing on a sphere, it seems at surface level to that guy who's being asked to be coherent. But you're correct. It's a stupid question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like
only-
asking
Hold
your
on,
opinion.
hold on,
into-
Chocolate. I want John to reiterate his own point. Go ahead, John.
It's like asking your opinion on a true or false question. Who cares what your opinion is?
I didn't, right? It's not my evidence. This isn't my support as to why flat Earth's nonsense and why nobody in the right academic brain could ever think it. Yeah.
I'm not attacking you, Adam.
I'm not.
attacking
I'm just defending the crap he's put up because it really does provide a strong case, irrespective of what he's going to put up next. The
I think they're all
reality
missing
of
the
these
biggest
numbers
problem.
is millions and millions of people. You know, if you look at strongly agree, somewhat agree, don't know, that's 8%. So that then means 46.2 million people don't think the Earth is definitely a globe in the US in 2018. 46.2 million.
What year we in now?
Well,
2023, and some people, including the show host, thinks we're a little section in the internet that I've been fighting to say that we're not. It's out there, and it is shifting.
I'm not saying it's that
Well-
big. I'm saying the evidence he's presented, unfortunately, kicks him in the nuts.
Oh, hold on. I've
Yeah,
got,
but
I've
you're
got to
all
address
missing
that.
something,
Neil's
yeah.
got this way of dropping these things in while someone else is making a point, so that they just get left out there. That's irritating. So I've now got to address that over the top of Adam and then reintroduce him while he's making his point. In fact, I won't. I'll let it slide. Grr. Go ahead, Adam.
leave me make my point. Now, the point is,
just wait your
not
turn.
that Adam doesn't have a.
Let him round
Go on.
out, and then you can go, Brian. Go ahead, Adam.
No, I am done. Look, irrespective of that, or whether he wants to poo-poo the numbers he first brought up, it's a huge, huge number. Even 1%, even 0.5% are massive, massive numbers. I like always, he's going to want to flatten these curve, isn't he, with his next, as I've just explained, skewed survey.
I just want to
There's
get
a
you to
reason
give a
surveys are done in the
comparison.
way.
Goldie will appreciate this. Right, just wrap my tongue around the word. For the statistical comparison of it, can you go and dig out percentage of members of Scientology versus populace for a given area like the States in this example? Could you do that for me on the fly, Adam, do you think? Because then it would give the audience a comparison. How many flat earthers are there versus how many Scientologists there are? Because Scientology is something that almost everybody in the audience will be familiar with. Registered religion, gets a lot of bad rap. It's in the press all the time. Its members are, you know, if you were looking at that subject, you'd know who they were. Now, what I'm saying is there's a very big difference in terms of the PR, even though people decry Scientology, compared to the tolerated bullying that a flat earther can accept. You know, they've got their own little mock FBI on their side defending their honour. We just are allowed to be prejudiced and ridiculed and, you know, bullied, quite literally. Cyber bullied, whatever you want to call it. But if you can give a comparison in terms of the numbers, it might give the audience, and you'll have to forgive my analogy in this regard, but there's a scene in, I think it's called An Ant's Life. It's quite an old movie from the 90s. One of the first, I think it's Pixar movies. And there's a point where the ants, who are basically being bullied by a very, very small number of grasshoppers. Now, the grasshoppers are big, physically big, compared to the ants. And they push them around, get them to do all the harvesting, and basically live off the hard work of the ants. But there's a certain point where the ants realise that there's tons of them that they can easily overpower the grasshoppers. Now, when you look at the playing field that we operate on in this arena, Flat Earth, on the internet, you'll get the impression, contrary to what Simon Whistler's just said, that there's a lot of people who oppose us. Now, by their own admission, our opponents will happily disclaim that they've got hundreds of sock accounts to spread the word of anti-flat earth truth. And they'll admit to that more than willingly. Now, if you use that in analogy, me with my... Yes, I've got lots of YouTube accounts that are all active with material on them and, gaining views and subscribers. I've got 5 of them. But that's not 5 sock accounts, that's 5 accounts. As opposed to someone with 1 account creating the impression that they're massive. A grasshopper. Big. In numbers. And they're not. Now, the prejudice that is created by this false impression that there's loads of people out there ready to ridicule you if you come forth as a flat earther, I just don't think it's the case. Given my own personal experience out in society when I mention it, which is rare, there isn't immediate hostile reactions that we get, or the impression that you would get, from the comments and such like on YouTube. It isn't the case in reality. Now, if the audience were aware that you're not alone, and just how much you're not alone, you might be less fearful of the societal reaction to you being in acquisition of the knowledge that Earth is obviously, observably, measurably, and navigatably flat. You won't concern yourself too much that just saying that will mean the guy at the bus stop suddenly spits on you, or says that you should be castrated and that you shouldn't have children, or you should jump off a building to prove gravity.
I'm so glad you're all catching on.
I'm just buying time for Adam actually to get some statistics here.
So, if we just take here, just to strongly agree, which is 3% of the US population, so that comes out at 9.9 million.
Into your mic,
what it's saying here in terms of Scientology was from an official, so from themselves, the Scientologist Church, they claimed in 2007 to have 3.5 million members. However, City University of New York did a study and they concluded that in the US, only 55,000 people would identify their religion as Scientology. So take the upper figure. It's still a third of the people that strongly agree. So there's 3 times more people that would strongly agree to being a flat earther than there are stated by Church of Scientology itself. There's 3 times more flat earthers.
There you go. That's something that people can quantify and get sort of their cogs turning. How alone am I? Well, not very, by the sounds of things.
We should do flat earth water.
If you're in your average supermarket, by the sounds of things, right, at some point in the day, there's going to be a flat earther in that supermarket, no matter where you are.
Well, can I just make the point I wanted to make about this guy? Right, even though the statistics are good, I'm enjoying what Adam is showing and what you're pointing out, Nathan. But there's something I think you've kind of missed about this guy. Now, Quantum Racer doesn't care. I know he doesn't care. Right, so I'm not going to include him. But this guy definitely looked back then at these polls. He definitely did. And that's why he's now bringing in his own poll, because it terrified him what he saw. So now he has to bring in his own poll to try and poo-poo the very thing that's supposed to be supporting him, which are public polls. Now he has to create his own one because the reality which we don't even
I've
know
got
if
to
it was
stop
even
you.
spewed.
No, I can't let you divine his intent. That might be. We might be able to glean that from this next example, but we'll have to listen to it first, Brian. But you are divining his intent at the moment. I'm sorry.
Well, there's no other way to see it, Nathan.
Exactly, Brian.
There's no other way to see it, Neil, is there? Why does he need this other his own personal poll?
Hold on.
When he has these.
Let me just. Something's coming to me from your crystal ball. Hold on, Brian. I'll let you know the alternative in a
Oh,
second.
shut up, Nathan.
Yeah, shut up, Nathan. Go on, off you go then.
Well, approximately, here we go. 96% of respondents stated that they firmly believe the world is round. 1% went with, I used to firmly believe the world is round, but now have doubts. 1% voted for, I firmly believe the world is flat. 0% stated, I used to firmly believe the world is flat, but now I have doubts. 1% noted, I am not sure what I believe on this issue. These numbers...
I'll take those.
Bullshit.
No, I've got a mathematician who loves this. Let him do his thing. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, I'll take those numbers. 1%, like I said, that is still US 33 million people. 33 million. What did we say? Sorry, that's 10%, isn't it? It's 3.3 million. So that still makes it equivalent, to the Church of Scientology's own claims. Yeah.
Right. Because I have actually done enough research. Hold on, this is the first time this has ever been useful. I have actually done enough research into Scientology to know that their claims, the Scientology Church themselves claims of how many members they have is vastly overinflated. However, knowing that that is the case, the overinflated numbers of Scientology match the biased survey that this guy took in terms of numbers. So even if you take the absolute worst case scenario from a biased source that's been invited to partake in the survey versus the overinflated numbers of Scientology's claimed members, they're the same.
And the number of people that used to believe the world was round, but now have doubts, and these are the, you know what I mean? This is what's interesting, is also equivalent to the number of people in the Church of Scientology. Another 3.5 million, or 3.3. Yeah, that's massive. It's massive.
So to say that statistic again, you're saying there's as many people who used to think Earth's a globe but now don't or have doubts as there are members of the claimed Scientology Church. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's according to this bias poll, yes.
Interesting what you can do with statistics.
There's something else there you're looking past.
What's that?
There's 0% of people who say they used to believe it's flat, but now they think it's a globe. And of all the people if you look at the game, what he said is that there's nobody who went and decided it was flat and then went back to being globe.
Brian, that's because they didn't ask Ranty.
Yeah.
But from the statistics, he's saying once you're flat, you don't turn back. That's what this shows statistically.
Doesn't it?
% stated, I used to firmly believe the world is flat, but now I have doubts. 1% noted, I am not sure what I believe on this issue. These numbers seem surprisingly reasonable for an online poll when comparing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I believe.
How many million is that?
So that's now another. So we're now at 10 million that on a ball.
I mean, that's statistically significant, even by his own survey.
Yes.
No.
Something.
Statistical significance is 5%. So if he's claiming 1%, it isn't statistically significant.
No, the combined total of all of them. So not just the one.
Sure. But this is where you're like fudging around with the figures to make the picture, right? You can do it either way. And depending on what your position is, you can make it seem good or bad.
No. Well, yes, that's what we're highlighting. You can do anything you like with the statistics, but